It used to be that when you left the office, you left the boss. You punched a card, you walked out the door, and for 16 hours, your time was your own. The commute was a barrier. The door was a firewall. But the walls have dissolved. The office has metastasized. It followed you home. It crept into your spare bedroom. It installed itself on your dining room table. I have a friend. Let's call him Ken. Ken works remotely. Every morning, he wakes up with a knot in his stomach. Not because he hates the work, but because of the green dot. That little status icon on Teams or Slack. If he's green, he's safe. If it turns yellow, away, for more than 5 minutes, the anxiety sets in. He knows that somewhere, on a dashboard he can't see, a timer is counting. He takes his phone into the bathroom just to tap the screen so the icon doesn't change. He's fighting a war against a piece of code designed to measure his existence in keystrokes per minute. We've talked about the spy in the street and the one in your pocket. Today we're going to talk about the spy in your paycheck. Welcome to the era of Bossware. Welcome to the tattleware trap. I'm Sudo, and this is Impractical Privacy. Let's strip away the marketing fluff. Companies call this software employee productivity intelligence. I think it's authorized malware. Most people think, as long as I can see the little padlock in my browser, my connection is secure. My boss can't see that I'm on a mental health forum or checking my bank balance. That's wrong. We need to talk about HTTPS inspection. This is the most single invasive technical trick in the corporate playbook. Here's how it works. When you join a company, they install a root certificate on your laptop. This certificate tells your computer, trust everything this server says. When you go to your bank's website, your company's firewall intercepts the connection. It decrypts your traffic, reads it, re-encrypts it, and sends it back to the bank. To you, the icon looks normal. To the bank, the connection looks normal. But in the middle, your IT department has a plain text log of every URL, every search term, and every form you filled out. There is no private browsing on a work device. Incognito mode just means the browser doesn't remember where you've been. The network still saves everything. And if you think, well, I'll just use a VPN. We've talked about that. Guess what? That Bossware agent on your kernel, it sees the traffic before it hits the VPN's network adapter. You are in a glass house and you don't even know the walls are transparent. And it gets worse. Let's talk about what they can see. Tools like Terramind and Hubstaff don't just log code. They take screenshots. Some configurations take a snapshot every 10 minutes. Others record continuous video. But the real nightmare is OCR, optical character recognition. This software isn't just saving a picture of your screen. It's reading the text on the screen. Let's say you have a personal window open. Maybe it's a PDF of a medical bill. Maybe it's a chat with your spouse where you're complaining about your manager. The software scans that image. It recognizes the word oncology or interview or the words, I hate this job. And it indexes those words into a searchable database. An HR manager can literally type resume into a search bar, and the system will pull up every screenshot where any employee had a resume on their screen. And for the truly paranoid, some of these tools have retroactive recording. It's like a dash cam for your work desktop. It is always recording a rolling 5-minute video buffer. If you trigger a risk rule, say you try to copy a file to a USB drive, the system saves the previous 5 minutes of video so they can see what you were doing before the violation. They can watch you thinking about breaking that rule. Next, we need to talk about the water cooler wiretap. There's a pervasive myth that your direct messages, your DMs, on Slack or Teams are private. They are not. They are corporate records. But today, companies aren't just reading your chats. They are psychoanalyzing them. They're deploying sentiment analysis AI. This is a bot that scans millions of messages looking for tone. It flags words like unfair, stupid, union, or quit. But it also looks for patterns of disengagement. Have your response times slowed down by 15%? Are you using shorter sentences than usual? Are you using more negative adjectives? The system builds a flight risk score. You might be doing your job perfectly, but because the algorithm detects a drop in enthusiasm, your name pops up on a dashboard titled, "At risk of departure." You could be fired for a crime you haven't even committed yet. This is a corporate minority report. I want to touch on something that sounds like a conspiracy theory, but it's a documented feature in high-end surveillance suites. Ambient recording. Some loss prevention tools can activate the microphone or webcam based on triggers. If the software detects suspicious activity on the screen, it can silently turn on the webcam to capture who's sitting at the desk. They call it identity verification. I call it spying on your bedroom. And don't forget the attention tracking. Some software uses the webcam to track your eye movement. If you look away from the screen for too long, or you pull out your phone, the system logs a distraction event. Imagine trying to think through a complex problem, staring at the ceiling, and having a machine dock your pay because your eyes weren't locked on the pixels. That is the reality that they are building. And if your boss says, "Hey, just use your personal phone for work. We'll give you a $50 stipend," run away. This is the BYOD trap. To get that email on your phone, you often have to install an MDM, which is mobile device management profile. Here's the horror story. You quit your job, or you get fired. The IT guy hits a button called remote wipe. If the profile isn't set up perfectly, and trust me, IT departments are overworked and sometimes lazy, that command doesn't just wipe the work email. It factory resets your phone. The photos of your baby? Gone. Your notes app? Gone. Your 2-factor authentication codes for your personal bank account? Gone. Because you wanted to check Outlook on the weekend. The tip on this one, if your job requires you to be connected, buy a refurbished Pixel or iPhone for $80 or whatever and put it in a drawer at 5 p.m. and don't touch it until tomorrow morning. Do not carry your own leash. Before we get to the fix on all of this, I want you to zoom out with me. If you've been listening to this show for the last 10 weeks, you might feel like these are all separate problems. We've talked about the spy in your pocket. We've talked about the one in your driveway. We talked about the sentient city tracking your phone as you move around town last week. But here's the terrifying truth that you need to understand. These are not separate silos. They are different camera angles on the same subject. Think about it. In episode 5, I told you how your car insurance company buys data about your braking and cornering habits. Well, who provides your health insurance? Your employer. If Bossware detects that you're stressed, typing erratically, working weird hours, and your car telematics show that you're driving aggressively, how long until those two data sets merge to raise your premiums? In bonus episode number 2, we talked about the optimized narcissist and health trackers. Bossware is the other half of that coin. Your Fitbit tracks your heart rate. Your laptop tracks your work rate. When you combine them, they don't just know what you're doing. They know exactly how much pressure they can apply before you break. And remember the smart home? If you followed my advice in episode 3 and blocked the trackers on your TV, but you brought a corporate laptop onto your main Wi-Fi network, you just let the fox into the hen house. That laptop is scanning the very network you tried to secure. This is the convergence. The car tracks the commute, the phone tracks the location, the city tracks the face, and now the Bossware can track your mind. They are closing the circle. The goal is a 24-hour continuous feed of you. And that's why the countermeasures we're about to discuss aren't just about keeping your job. They're about keeping the only part of your life that's still yours. Okay, the box is built, the camera is on. How do we survive? We have to be impractical. Tactic number 1, the air gap. The air gap is God. This is the only rule that really matters. Think church and state. Never do personal business on a work machine. Never do work business on a personal machine. I don't care if it's just a quick Google search for a medical symptom. Do not do it on the company laptop. That laptop is hostile territory. Assume the webcam is on. Assume the microphone is hot. Put a piece of electrical tape over the webcam. If they ask why, security hygiene. Use their own buzzwords against them. Tactic number 2 is network isolation. We touched on this in episode 3. Don't let your work laptop sit on your main home network. If that laptop is running a network scanner, it can see all your devices, your printer, your smart TV, your PlayStation. Put your work device on your router's guest network. Isolate it. Think of it like a virus in your home. Tactic number 3 is the analog jiggler. If you need to step away for a moment without the green dot turning yellow, do not use a software mouse jiggler. IT can see the process running in the background. Do not use a USB dongle. IT can see the unauthorized USB device ID. Do something low tech. Get an analog wristwatch with a ticking second hand. Place your optical mouse on top of the watch face. The sensor will detect the movement of the second hand. It's not entirely undetectable. The software is getting better, and AI could be used to analyze the mouse movements. But if you have to use a mouse jiggler, this is the best one. It is the most impractical analog solution to a digital problem. Keep in mind, the unauthorized use of a mouse jiggler can land you in trouble with your employer, so use that one at your own risk. In fact, let's talk about that a little bit. Corporations are actively fighting back against this type of tactic. In 2024, banking giant Wells Fargo fired over a dozen people for that type of behavior. So let this be the words of warning on that. Using a mouse jiggler can cost you your job. But a watch as a mouse jiggler is a more stealthy piece of kit than what you could buy from Amazon or the TikTok shop. Okay, fighting back on a local level is great. But what does the law say about all of this? Well, as typical if you're in the United States, not much. The closest we have to any type of guidance on this comes from California in the form of AB 1221, aka the Workplace Privacy Act, which was introduced in 2024. It doesn't actually prevent any of this type of behavior from an employer, but if you work in the state of California, your workplace has to disclose any monitoring and obtain informed consent for intrusive tools. With that said, several other states do have bills going through their local governments, but beyond that, not much else has been done in the US. How about our friends in the European Union? They have the European Data Protection Board guidelines on processing personal data based on legitimate interests. It's a mouthful. Basically, this law gives companies a framework to make sure that the type of monitoring they partake in falls within the confines of what they're allowed to do to run their business. So that's basically the laws in this area. As we've repeatedly discussed, laws have not kept up with the advancements in tech. So you have to help yourself. The software being deployed by your employer is toxic. Do not let it eat you alive. This type of software can create the Hawthorne effect, which, if you don't know what that is, don't worry, I got you. The basic summary of it is, when people know they are being watched, they don't work better. They work differently. People under observation behave differently. It's human nature. In a work setting, they perform work theater. They send useless emails to look busy. They attend meetings they don't need to be in. It kills creativity. You can't have a deep thought or a breakthrough idea if you're worried that your mouse hasn't moved in 5 minutes. So here's my advice. Don't let them break you. Do your job, fulfill your contract, but do not give them your soul. And do not let the green dot dictate your self-worth. All right, we've just built a fortress of air gaps, guest Wi-Fi, and analog mouse jigglers. But let's be honest, most of us don't have a spare Google Pixel tucked behind the couch, and we can't tape every webcam in the house. So what do we do when the Bossware beast is already prowling? We listen to the pulse of our own privacy. Let's run through a few things you can do every evening before you shut down your laptop or your brain. Even if you've isolated your work device, the data that already exists in the corporate lake can still be used against you. Think retroactive recordings, sentiment analysis scores, or that dreaded at-risk of departure dashboard. Those datasets don't magically disappear when you log off. But the good news is that most of the damage comes from continuous exposure. If you put a hard stop on the flow, you starve the algorithm of fresh signals. A simple daily pulse can shrink the data trail dramatically. Up first is the device audit. You need to ask yourself, did I use a personal device for any work-related task today? If the answer is yes, immediately copy the file to a personal encrypted USB and delete it from the work machine. Next is the app permission scan. Did any apps request a new permission? Camera, mic, location. If yes, open settings, privacy, permissions, and revoke anything you didn't explicitly need to get the job done. Next is the network check. Was my work laptop on my main home Wi-Fi at any point? If so, disconnect and reconnect it to the router's guest network. Number 4 is the data export review. Did any corporate tool export logs or screenshots to a cloud folder? If so, log into the service, download only the files you need and delete the rest. Last up is a mental reset. Did I feel the green dot pressure today? Self-reflection is important, and knowing if the actions you're taking are helpful to you or not can help guide your future self. And that's it for this week, guys. Make sure to check the show notes. I've linked to the EFF report on Bossware and a guide on how to set up a guest network, as well as some other relevant articles. I know the stuff we talk about every week can be a bit heavy, but if our weekly get-togethers aren't enough, for those of you at the big fan level on Patreon, the discussion doesn't stop weekly. Once a month, on the second Monday, a bonus episode drops, where we ignore the clock and we can go fully off-grid. This month's episode was about mindful and wellness apps. If you want to support the show and get access to those episodes, check out the Patreon link in the show notes. Your support keeps the mic on, the servers running, and the trackers confused. I'm Sudo. This is Impractical Privacy. Stay skeptical, stay safe, and remember, if the boss asks why your webcam is taped over, tell them you're protecting trade secrets. Your trade secrets. Oh, and one last thing before you go. Why did the spy cross the road? He didn't. He was never really on your side. I'll catch you next week.